So, one thing I've noticed whenever I'm online and watching YouTubes or Instagrams or TikToks, whatever, when you see a lot of these fitness influencers or health influencers, a lot of them talk about, I need my protein, 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 protein. And then when you see them get their protein, it's usually a big plate of ground beef or ground turkey or even pork, whatever. And maybe they'll pair it with cottage cheese and being healthy, they'll pair it with avocado or they'll have a big plate of eggs. But is that really the healthiest choice? We'll see. We'll talk about it. Also, it turns out that most Americans actually already get enough protein, but yet there's a lot of a kind of a marketing scheme that goes on, of course, in our country when it comes to protein. Like you'll see protein cookies, protein chips, and all these type of things just to get you to eat more protein. But turns out you may not need any more protein, and the best protein may not actually come from animal protein, but maybe mostly from plant-based proteins. And we're going to talk about it. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another Brewer Report. As you heard at the top, we're talking about protein. That's a very popular thing online, and we're going to talk about it and hopefully give you some better tips on how you can incorporate protein into your life and how much protein you should incorporate into your life. So we're going to get into all of that and the kind of protein you should put in your body. Should it be animal based or should it be more plant based? Because some people think with plant based you're not going to get enough protein. We're going to dispel that rumor. But before we get started, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are very, very, very close to our subscriber goal, which is our baseline goal of 1,000 subscribers. We are about 50 people away from reaching that 1,000 subscriber goal. So definitely share this podcast and this channel in general with your friends, with your family, and help us get to that goal. That would be so very much appreciated. So let's get started. Let's get into the protein. All right, so upgrade your protein, or should you? We're going to talk about or how you can incorporate proteins in your life, particularly as you age. My dad is a great person to talk about that, and we're going to get into it. So let's start with this first slide. Remember, I mentioned about the protein marketing epidemic. Adding protein does not automatically make a food healthy. A protein cookie is still a cookie. It still has all that sugar, it still has all that flour. A protein chip is still an ultra processed thing. So, Daddy, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. There's this protein craze going in the country, by a lot of marketing. In other words, people are saying, well, you need protein in this, you need protein in that. But in essence, like as you said, Americans really are getting way more than enough protein overall. It's not just the protein, however. It's all the other stuff that comes with the sources of protein, which are obviously causing all of our health problems in terms of cardiovascular disease, cancer, etc.
Right. So, it's kind of the quality of your protein that we'll get
Absolutely.
into. So, the reality, as we just said, you're already getting enough protein. The baseline is zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. And this is kind of for men. And optimal is 1 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight for people over 50. So the question isn't how much protein you're eating, it's where it's coming from. The average American consumes substantially more than necessary, but again, like we said, but what kind of protein are you getting? Are you getting mostly animal based from ultra processed foods, or are you getting plant based proteins? So here's the baggage of the American diet. When you eat for muscle, you are forced to continue the to consume the entire package. Processed meat deliver delivers protein, but at the cost of your cardiovascular and cellular health. So your package in terms of your meat, in terms of animal-based protein, yes, you're getting protein, but you're also getting saturated fat, cholesterol, AGEs, which my dad will elaborate on more later. You're getting excess sodium. You're getting heme iron. These things can be harmful. So, Daddy, let's talk about what you're getting from the plant-based package, though, in terms of protein.
Well, you're getting the phytonutrients and the antioxidants and fiber, and more fiber. As we have always said, fiber is king and queen when it comes to your health because it basically sweeps out a lot of bad stuff in your digestive system. And because, but also the phytonutrients and antioxidants, all these are all the things that plant-based foods do for you in terms of preventing disease. Everything on the left-hand side, saturated fat, cholesterol, AGEs, which we'll get into, excess sodium, which is high blood pressure, heme iron, etc. All of these are health risk factors when it comes to meat.
Yes. And now, like my dad just emphasized, the missing variable is the fiber. Americans consume roughly only half the fiber they should. Because with meat, you're not getting any fiber. You're getting zero fiber, period. But if you add plant based protein, you're getting that fiber that you so desperately need. Like we said at the
Right.
top, are getting enough protein, but you're not getting enough fiber.
Right. And as you see on the right-hand side, lower cholesterol, improve gut health, controls blood sugar, supports weight management, and reduces inflammation. These are the health benefits of plant-based foods in terms of protein. Okay. When you get your protein from plant-based foods, this is what you're getting.
Yes. And here's the longevity intersection. Elaborate more on this, Daddy, especially as it relates to elite athletes.
Right. There's a very kind of a paradox here. Elite athletes and people who are aging need increased protein. How about that? Uh, as you age, you get sarcopenia, which is the depletion of your muscle mass. So the advice for aging people, Americans, etc., is that you should do some kind of strength training. That's why I do strength training at least 3 to 4 times per week. It's the key to maintain my muscularity. But when you do that, you also have to increase your protein intake. That's basically what this slide is saying. That in order to prevent disease and maintain your muscles, you have to take in more protein.
Yes. But again, it's about the quality of your protein, which you should pretty much understand by now is probably going to be plant based mostly. So let's get into more on that, more why a plant based protein diet is better for you. This is where we get into the AGEs. Like, for instance, you have people who will eat bacon and sausage as their protein in the morning. And I can't tell you again, like I said at the top, you see a lot of these fitness influencers and health influencers. Oftentimes, I will see them eat bacon in the morning, and they'll make it a turkey bacon, or they'll make it a turkey sausage, and you can tell that they think that that is healthier, but not necessarily. And of course, we have the beef and the pork. All of that is high in saturated fats, zero fiber, and longevity association is negative. Now, you do have salmon and poultry. Poultry has its own thing, and my dad has issues with poultry, but for the most part, salmon is his thing once a week. But that can have some high saturated fats, but it's kind of neutral in the longevity association. But hey, let's get deeper into what AGEs are and let's try to simplify it for the people.
Yeah, it's a big word, advanced glycation end products. These are compounds that are formed when let's just break it down. When you eat especially animal fat protein, it mixes with the fat and the protein mixed with sugar, and we know what sugar does. And when it mixes with sugar, it kind of stiffens and your arteries and your tissues and damages them. And all of a sudden now you've got heart disease because your blood vessels are stiffened. You got rapid aging because the collagen and elastin in your skin is basically decreasing, and your skin is wrinkling and sagging. And of course, sugar, diabetes. It damages your small blood vessels, which can lead to kidney failure and blindness. And the biggie, you also have brain decline because you have plaque buildup, and it increases the risk of Alzheimer's. So this is why you have to avoid high AGE foods, which means high fat, uh, protein, meat, etc. And I cringe when I see people eating bacon and stuff because I'm telling you that is about as high fat as it gets. And so, but it is what it is.
You see the opposite here if you're eating lentils, beans, tofu, tempeh, seeds, and nuts. You still get your protein, but you're getting again that high fiber count, and you're not getting all of that unwanted baggage of high saturated fats, etc. Assuming you're not putting butter and stuff in these plant-based sources.
Yeah,
And
and at the
this is all about the blue zone people. This is a heavy diet with the blue zone people.
yeah, blue zone people are basically the longest living people in the world. In the United States, those people live in Loma Linda. In Asia, they're in Okinawa. And also there are some blue zones as well as in the Mediterranean. That's why the Mediterranean diet is so important and popular, is because these are the blue zone people who are living well into their 80s and 90s, and in many cases centenarians. But let me say something else about this slide. Lentils is at the top, and that's the reason why lentils are at the top. Lentils are not only high in protein, they're one of the what we call the gold standard. And they are not only high in protein, they've got 15 grams of protein and 15 grams of fiber. That's extremely high. Okay. And that's sort of that ideal source of protein that I use a lot in my diet, to be honest with you. I use a lot of lentils, obviously beans and tofu and seeds and nuts, but that's really at the top of the heap.
Yes, and it takes us all the way back to Dr. Furman's rule, an acronym, the G Bombs diet: greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. And we say plus nuts. Because, if you build your diet around this, I mean, again, it's obvious. You're just healthier throughout the day, and you're getting your protein throughout the day, and you're treating animal products as more of a side dish and not your main dish. And you're likely avoiding processed meats, which we know are just horrible for you. And you're focused on longevity versus just the marketing schemes of eating more protein. So let's get into rethinking the plate. You have the old American plate, which is again majority animal based proteins, meat, and the rest is, just divided up between starch and probably some overcooked vegetables. But then you have the brewer plate, which would be the opposite: 50% fruits and vegetables, and 25% of beans and lentils. And again, we're not anti meat. We're just saying cut it cut it in half, if not more, to about 25%.
Yeah, we're not asking Americans to stop eating meat. We're just saying upgrade your quality of protein, and that means that you're going to add more plant-based proteins to your diet. And when you do eat meat, eat very lean meat, lean animal meat. We're not talking about that high-fat processed versions. Eat lean meat. Like I eat salmon once a week. That's lean. And as you saw in the previous chart, it's not gonna create the AGEs and all of the other heart problems and cholesterol and diabetes that a lot of meats will cause. So this is all we're saying. And by the way, the fiber in the 50% and the 25% will counteract a lot of the saturated fat that you may consume in that 25% of lean or animal protein. That's another reason. Fiber, fiber, and more fiber.
That's right. It's like, what did we say? It's like a broom in your body. It sweeps away all the bad stuff.
Right, including microplastics.
Yes. In fact, you can watch our previous episode. I'll try to link it here, where we talked about that and how it relates to microplastics. Now, stay with us with this. We're going to talk about how much protein certain lifestyles need. Like if you have a sedentary lifestyle, if you have an active lifestyle, or if you have a very active lifestyle. So we'll start with the sedentary lifestyle. A sedentary lifestyle for people in particular who are 50 plus, you're mostly sitting all day. Maybe you walk less than 5,000 steps per day, and there's little formal exercise. So, how much protein do you need per day? This is how you calculate that. On average, you need about zero point 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram of body weight per day. How do you calculate that? Hopefully, you all see this. For the sedentary life, let's do some math. Step one, let's say you are 150 pounds. So take your body weight, but right for this example, we're using 150 pounds. So let's say you're 150 pounds, you divide that by 2.2 because we're going to convert it to kilograms. That converts to 68.1 kilograms. As we said in the previous slide, you need about zero point 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So you take your 68.1 and you times that. Actually, the multiplier we're using here is 0.9. You times that, that's kind of in the middle, and that gives you 61.3 grams that you would
Of
need if you
protein.
of protein per day if you are 150 pounds. Again, swipe your body weight into this, and that will be your number. But we're just using 150 pounds as an example. And in terms of fiber, you need about 35 to 45 grams of fiber per day. And we're recommending 60% plant-based protein and 40% perhaps animal-based protein because we know not everyone is like my dad, which is 6'1", like only eating animal-based protein once a week. And you want it to again be lean. And, just as a sample day, maybe you start your day with some oatmeal and soy milk and chia seeds and hemp seeds. That's plenty of protein. That's 20 grams of protein. For lunch, you have a large G-bomb salad. We have a recipe on our YouTube where we make a kale salad. That would be a great salad for you for lunch. But here, you could have chickpeas and black beans in your salad. That gives you 25 grams of protein. So you're already at 45 grams of protein by lunch. And then by dinner, you may, if you're a meat eater, you may have your lean salmon, broccoli, sweet potato, and lentils. That gives you 30 grams of protein. So you're well into your protein. And as you can see, you didn't eat a lot of meat because it's funny. A lot of people don't think they get protein from plant-based, but you can.
Right. Right. And that adds up to the highest total or your highest target for your sedentary lifestyle. You had 75 grams of protein. Okay. There's a
Right.
lot of protein built into those three meals. And so that's how you get there.
And then you have the active lifestyle. Again, the math is the same in terms of reaching your kilograms. So you have example B. Let's say you're 180 pounds. You divide it by 2.2, that gives you 81.8 kilograms. As we have in our chart, when you are active, you want about 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if we go back to our example, if you are 180 pounds divided by 2.2, 81.8, divide that by what we just said, one of the multipliers, 1.1. So you need about 90 grams of protein that day. Right here we have it at about 100 to 110. So just in that range. Again, though, it depends on your body weight. So with that ratio, we want you to have even more plant-based protein, 70%, 30% maybe on the animal side as a sample meal. Smoothie, soy milk, pea protein, hemp seeds, etc. Lunch, same thing. G-bomb salad. Maybe get a snack of some roasted edamame. Dinner,
Edamame is
same
a
thing.
complete protein. Edamame is a complete protein. So
Complete
that's another
protein.
point that we make.
So, as my dad said, edamame is a complete protein, and then for dinner you have your salmon or whitefish and your quinoa, which is another complete protein, and mushrooms. So, you eat what you can, but what we're showing you here is, as you can see, meat is not the main event. And
Absolutely.
I should emphasize that an active lifestyle would be like if you are a daily walker or you golf or you cycle and you do maybe some light resistance kind of training. Any other words, Daddy?
No, the point is, and the reason you see 50 plus blueprint is because as you age, as we said before, you're beginning to lose muscle mass. So you need more protein, but you need high quality protein. You don't need the protein with a whole lot of baggage with saturated fat and cholesterol and all and which will increase your cholesterol, etc. So you don't need that. You need plant-based protein to also keep you healthy, to keep you from getting diabetes, to basically help you with your mental health as well in terms of your brain health, rather, in terms of making sure that you're not compounding ingredients into your brain, the AGEs that we just previously discussed, and that could lead to Alzheimer's. So that's why plants are so important.
Very important. And as we've said before, you're also getting your fiber. And I didn't mention this, but your fiber for an active lifestyle, you want about 40 to 50 grams of fiber. Now, let's move to the very active blueprint. And this is kind of based off of my dad. He's 80 years old. Happy birthday again to my dad. And
Thank you.
this is the very active. So, very active, we're talking you're doing resistance training 4 to 6 days per week, heavy manual labor. So, this is kind of my dad's lifestyle and maybe your lifestyle. So, again, same formula. Yes, I'm repeating, but when you repeat, it helps people to better understand. So, again, you take your weight. If you're 185 pounds and you're very active, divided by 2.2, that gives you 84 kilograms. Divided by that multiplier for this, when you're very active, you want 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. For this example, we're using 1.43. That gives you about 120 grams of protein per day. And the way my dad eats, he's recommending maybe you only eat fish once a week, plant-based 6 days out of the week, and daddy break down your sample day of meals.
Right. Now, when you're 80 and active, very active, like me, you need more protein, period. As you can see, 145 grams of protein. Well, you guess what? You got to eat to get to that level. So what I do is I eat a tofu scramble. That's a lot of protein right there. Okay. Then I do a pre-workout super smoothie, which has a significant, at least 30 grams of protein in that. Then I'll eat my lunch. Then I'll go work out. My pre-workout smoothie is about you have to let the nitric oxide, it's high in nitric oxide. If you go back to our podcast on pomegranates and pomegranate seeds and beets and beet juice, etc., that's that smoothie because I'm increasing my nitric oxide with a lot of arugula in there. But I also have some protein in there. But that is designed to get my blood flowing so that I can have a very good workout. But after I've lifted weights and done the resistance training, I also have to have something in terms of repairing the muscles. And that means I have to have a very heavy protein-based post-workout smoothie. Now that's when I get into the lentils, the tofu, the soy milk, the and a lot of other and some rice, to be honest with you, to basically enhance the amount of protein in that particular smoothie. So that smoothie is going to be closer to 40 to 50 grams of protein as opposed to my pre-workout smoothie. And then, of course, the rest of it is based on my evening meal, which would be dinner. And one of the highest protein, plant-based proteins is textured vegetable protein, TVP. And my daughter Stacey, as everyone knows, is born in San Diego. We think she actually cuts Mexico some kind of way, but she loves tacos. So this is a this is
Yeah,
a
I want to eat
great,
this now.
right, a textured vegetable protein taco. Very high in protein and very healthy, by the way. And also very high in fiber. You look how much fiber is down there. 70 grams of fiber.
Just to be clear, the 70 grams of protein is, I mean, 70 grams of fiber is what you need as a very active person. It's not 70 grams of fiber in TVP. It's 70 grams of fiber for a very active person that we recommend for the day. Of course, always talk to your doctors, by the way, when it comes to what you need per day. But this is just a general overview.
Right, right. 70 grams of fiber is what you need. Everything on the left-hand side is really based on what you need daily in terms of
On
totals.
average. Yeah.
On average for a person my age, very active. I'm about 170 pounds, but that's basically what I need. And
And
that's
and we already
basically
showed you the formula of how you can customize this for you based on your body weight.
right. You can customize it by dividing the kilograms by 2.2, etc. Your weight by 2.2.
Right. All right. So give your meat a team. You know, we see meat in the middle of this plate here, but in essence, it still should not be the main event. If you are eating meat, don't eat it alone. Put beans beside it, put vegetables beside it, and put fiber beside it, which obviously comes from the beans and vegetables and fruits.
Absolutely. Meat needs a teammate, period. They need teammates. Okay. And the best teammates are going to be your plant-based foods, period. Okay. Because meat doesn't have fiber. And we can't overemphasize the importance of fiber and phytonutrients. And phytonutrients. I can't tell you the number of people that we're working with right now who don't have enough phytonutrients or did not have enough phytonutrients in their diets, and they're manifesting all kinds of health issues. Knock on wood, that's one of the reasons why we were able to take my mother to become a centenarian because she was eating high fiber foods via her smoothies, plant based. She went mostly plant based for the last 10 years of her life.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear. The science says it. We talk about these two doctors all the time on our show, Dr. Greger and Dr. Furman. They've read all of the studies and they have come up with a very similar formula for eating per day. Dr. Greger calls his a daily dozen. Dr. Furman calls his the G Bombs diet. G Bombs is easier to remember because it's an acronym. And it's because when people ask, like, well, what should I eat? The G Bombs diet. It really is that simple. It's not complicated. And you need to be active, at least. You may not become very active, but at least become active. At least walk daily if you can, or ride the bicycle, because I know some people have mobility issues, but do some kind of movement daily. And we're going to, on our channel, touch more on that. And even meditation, ease your mind. It's mind, body, spirit, all of that. All of this matters. And, it's a synergy.
The main thing of this podcast is that as you age, you begin to lose muscle mass. And so you need to go to the same level to a certain extent of training that elite athletes go to. And that is resistance training to help build up your muscles. But you need fuel to build up your muscles. And the best fuel is plant-based protein, period. Some meat obviously is good, but plant-based protein because you also are getting the phytonutrients and the fiber that you need in order to stay healthy. That's sort of the lesson from this particular podcast.
Yes. And that sums it up perfectly. It's all about, again, the quality of your protein. So, thank you again for watching. This has been another great episode, and hopefully, you've learned a lot. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.